Perfect. Okay, I'm almost done with this, and then we can kick off. And for those of you that are starting to hop on here, I'm just trying to share this in a few places. So go ahead and let us know that you're on here with us. Give us a nice note or a thumbs up so I can see who's tuning in. Perfect. Just going to Okay, so as we start getting people that are hopping on here with us, I just wanted to get us kicked off. Good morning and happy Monday to everybody. I hope you had a terrific and refreshing weekend and are ready for another week. Today with you, as you all are aware, we have our mayoral message, which comes to us from Mayor Herb Atchison. But before I turn it over to our mayor, I wanted to reintroduce myself to you. I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to welcome any of you back that have already watched with us before. And our newcomers are encouraged to make sure that you hit the like, you hit the follow, so you can get those timely alerts when we do go live. All these videos are available to you here on the video section and also on the video section of our YouTube page as well. And we have them available in our resources hub, which is our COVID resource page on the westminsterchamber.biz page as well. Make sure that you're connected with us on all of our social platforms at Westy Chamber on Instagram and on Twitter, and tweet at us, comment, tag us. We engage highly on all of our social media platforms. So as you're hopping on here with us, you'll notice that there is a comment feature that's there on the bottom of the video. So during the discussion, as the mayor is giving updates or information, if you have questions or comments, or you take something out of this that you find to be beneficial and just want us to note it, make sure that you comment it in. We'll be able to actually pull it up on the screen like this. If we have any questions, we'll take them up at the end of the broadcast for our mayor. And then if you feel like you have a question, but you're not comfortable asking it to anybody in the public setting, you can also DM us as well, and we're happy to get your question taken care of. So I think that is the quickest that I've gone over all of the housekeeping rules. I will now turn this over to our mayor, Mayor Atchison, to share updates from his lens on everything in our community, surrounding our community, and things that we should just generally be aware of right now.
Well, good morning, Julia. Good morning, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed your weekend, and I hope you enjoy today, because this is supposed to be the coolest day we'll have all week. I think we're continuing to see a long stretch of 90-degree plus days and no moisture. So please be careful. You know, one of the things that we talked about a couple of weeks back was the initial starting of testing for COVID testing at the MAC, our Mature Adult Center down on 72nd and Federal. And this was our third week this past week. Just to give you a little bit of an update, the first week that we had it, had 35 people who showed up, and we were very fortunate. None of that 35 showed up with a positive test. However, going into week 2, we ended up with 42. Of that 42, 5 tested positive. Now, we ran into a small problem this past week, which was our third week. Even though we were able to get 86 people tested, and 6 of those tested positive, unfortunately, because the waiting line was so big, we were not able to get the medical center who provides the people to do the testing to give us a sufficient enough staff. So that test day was terminated early just because we were overwhelmed with the people who wanted to get tested versus the people who could do the test. And remember, this is for the uninsured and for the homeless. So again, we'll be back open this week. Our staff is trying to make sure that we have some additional people from the qualified to do the testing are on site today, or this Thursday rather. and that runs from 8 to 2. So remember, if you have people you're aware of in that area of the town that need to be tested, that are uninsured or that are homeless, please get them direction. Some interesting news that came out this past Thursday in our conversations with Adams County and with the Tri-County Health Department. Effective today, a mass test center is being opened up in the parking lot for Waterworld. This is very similar to the test center that was opened up at the Pepsi Center. They can handle up to 2,000 people a day is what their intent is. And according to the information that was given to us in the conversation we had, that they're expecting the turnaround to be no more than 3 days. Now, this is one of 3 new sites being set up around the state. One of them is in Pueblo. The one here in Federal Heights is where it's actually located, but that's at the Waterworld site. And then there, I believe the third one was up in the area around Fort Collins. But all 3 of these are major test sites that anybody can go to, regardless of it. And to the county's comments last week was that was supposed to be operational starting today. Unfortunately, I have not found it on their website yet as to what the hours are. But if you can check on the website for the Adams County, you may be able to find more information there. There is no indication of anything of that size being opened up in Jefferson County at this time. One of the things that we also learned on a conversation I was on this past week is that the Centura Hospital site, which is at 84th and Alto, or we commonly refer to 84th and Federal, if you recall, it was identified early on as one of the surge sites in case the COVID numbers became very high. There are currently 80 beds available in that facility. And to the information I got last Friday is that the Corps of Engineers and some local law enforcement groups will be starting some training on that site starting today for the next week or so. I have not been giving any information that they're going to actually have patients there, but if they're starting to train on the site, there's an indication that they could be starting to bring people in down there. The conversation we've had this past week with Tri-County, and we've also last Monday had Dr. Johnson from Jefferson County Health and on our council meeting, is that Adams and Jefferson County numbers are continuing to surpass needed numbers to show a decline in infection, which this is continuing to have a potential effect on the variances that were granted to Jefferson County. This past Thursday, on a call I was having with Tri-County and Adams County had just that morning received a rejection of a variance that they had requested for arcade centers, such as Boondocks and stuff over there. So their application for a variance for them was rejected by the state. So that still has a big effect on facilities that have large numbers of arcade machines on them, such as Boondocks and a couple of others in the county. So anyway, that was a rejection. Jefferson County did indicate to us that their mitigation plan was to be submitted last week, and hopefully as soon as possible, the state will tell them whether or not the actions that they're proposing are going to be enough to save the variance that they were already granted or not. So we don't know how soon that report will be back. Hopefully we'll get something from Jefferson County as soon as they know. The conversation I had last week with Dr. Douglas from Tri-County did indicate that on the surveys that they've been doing at some of the businesses, and these are typically done from the parking lots, they don't go into the businesses, with his staff indicated that the city of Westminster has been doing pretty good about people voluntarily wearing masks. Still, we see a few here and there that aren't wearing it going into business. But we've also in the conversation learned that the number of businesses that are in violation, not enforcing the mask rules, doing things in there, not cleaning, having people not wearing them that are working in the facilities, that number of complaints has started to grow. And unfortunately, that's going to have negative reactions to anything that we try to do to getting businesses open. So it's imperative that we understand from the businesses that, guys and gals, you are not only risking your customers, but you're risking your business as well. If you are knowingly letting people violate the orders from the state and from the health department, then your business license is at risk. So it's imperative that you understand the risk you're taking. Also, when you are not in compliance with state health orders, from the city standpoint, that is a part of the license that you have to sign up to when you open a business in the city, that you will stay in compliance with state and health department rules in operating your business. So we do have a number of complaints that have been lodged against businesses both in the Adams County and Jefferson County side of Westminster. And the health department has, to my understanding, has been putting those people on notice that they're in violation. What that means immediately is they're giving them an opportunity to correct the behavior. If they don't, then it will be between the health department and the state as to whether or not they then take action against their business license. Unfortunately, if you're serving food in a restaurant and you don't have people preparing meals and serving meals with a mask or gloves on, depending on what they're doing, then the potential of your employees becoming infecting your customers could lead to you not only having to shut down for a period of time for isolation, but again, a fine from the state or from the county, and as well as the loss of your business license. So to me, that's an awful big risk to take for not wearing facial coverings and making sure that your employees are doing the same. We've not seen a lot of other activity this week. Tonight, Monday nights are normal Monday night for council meetings. We'll be doing that tonight. We have a number of items, but not a whole lot compared to some of the previous weeks. But activities in the city continue to go forward. Our staff continues to watch the infection rates in our counties, the reported test results, and every week they continue to evaluate whether or not it's safe to open up another part of the city. Right now, with our numbers continuing to increase, the likelihood of more stuff opening up immediately is probably very minimal. We've got to be able to get that 14-day downturn of COVID infections within our county, within our cities, in order for us to be able to open up more. We still are, like I said earlier, we're still waiting on Jefferson County to see how they fare with their mitigation plan. Depending upon what happens there, again, we could be losing some of the things we've opened, and some of this is going to be primarily outdoor activities for right now. Other than that, the week has been fairly quiet so far. Again, it's only Monday, and we're hoping to not see any interruptions of normal city business. We're very fortunate that our staff is very prevalent of trying to make sure that the facilities that we do have open, the services that we are providing continue to do so. And we'll continue to monitor what's going on with the infections around the city. Juliet, if you've got some burning questions, either from yourself or some of the members on the call, we'll try to get those answered.
Oh, I always do. Good morning, and just a quick hello to a few people. I see Johnny Woodley is on here with us. Jennifer Castillo, thank you so much for hopping on. I see Jerry from Jeffco, their treasurer's office. So he is their Jeffco treasurer, and Tina Silver, good morning to you all. And of course, I see Wayne Anderson just with a comment to both you, Mayor, and myself. Tina is a small business owner, and so she actually came back with a couple of comments, just mainly for appreciation and gratitude. Thank you for the continued updates that we're providing to our community and business, and in regard to public safety, and for being advocates. And then she did go on and thank you as well for reiterating that it's state level guidelines that these businesses are now having to follow, and it's not just opinions or suggestions that people have out there as well. Then I see Peter Brissett, good morning to you as well. So you had a question, or you had a few comments, and I had some questions that I wanted to ask in particular, if you had the details, Mayor. One of these was, so you said based on analysis and survey results, it looks like Westminster in general is following those mask wearing. We've got a strong percentage of people that are wearing those masks. But on the other side, we're having those complaints that have started growing toward businesses. So is this more complaints as it relates to the employees of that business? Or how are you seeing that in combination with, if we have an increase in the use or a sustained use of our mask wearers as customers or consumers, then my assumption would be that those complaints are coming in regard to the businesses themselves.
That's on both sides. So it's the business not enforcing the rules, it's the employees in the business in violation of rules, but then it's also the customers. So it's not one side or the other, it's a combination of both. And the business, if as a customer is not in their business, not wearing face protection, keeping in mind those who have legitimate exceptions to the rule because of health conditions. But otherwise, I think it's in some cases it's just people not wearing it. I know. I'll give you an example for King Soopers. I know they run a regular announcement over their PA systems, probably every 10 or 15 minutes, about mandating that people wear masks. And yes, I've observed a person, not a lot, in the store when I was in there over the weekend. But for the most part, it looks like everybody's trying to do what they can. But then there are exceptions to people who just refuse to wear them. Then it's going to be, again, up to the business to enforce what rules are, because it is a state mandate and your business license is what's at risk. Again, this is something that we have to rely on each other to help us cooperate with, because I don't want to see any business lose its license. I don't want to see them be fined. I certainly don't want them to have to close down because their facility became infected because of one person or a multiple. But the other thing that's really driving, and this came up from both health departments, we're still seeing a large number of private events, not only in people's backyards, but in their homes, where people are not using social distancing, may not be wearing masks, but they're exceeding what should be available to them as far as numbers. So private parties continue to be one of our spreading pieces that we can't control. And again, it's going to be up to the individuals to understand what their limitations are or what they should be.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. So I appreciated you sharing some of the data and information as it relates to the testing site that we have down there at the MAC for those that are uninsured or potentially homeless. And I also thought it was highly beneficial for people to know about the test centers opening in at Waterworld. This is one of the 3 new sites that you mentioned across the state of Colorado, with the closest one to us being over in Federal Heights. And this was open to anybody, regardless of whether or not they are uninsured.
My understanding, same thing that they had at the Pepsi Center under the same state requirements. It's open to anybody and everybody. How they handle insurance claims or payments and stuff like that, I've never seen any information on it. But I know typically from what I observed down at the Pepsi Center, you lined up, you got your test.
Excellent. Good morning message comes to us from Peter. Good morning to you. Thank you so much. Wayne is asking a question, and this might be after when you mentioned that tonight is council meetings. And I know last week and a couple of weeks before we were discussing kind of the overall anticipated shortfall and some things as it relates to our budget at the city level. And you as counselors and mayor and administration have been talking through ideas on what that would shape into or how you can handle it best. So I think this is where this question mainly comes from. So Wayne's question, again, emphasizing that we have a budget shortfall and that's taking place at the city. Is the city presently still hiring during this time?
We are hiring for certain pieces. I'll give you an example. We have a shortfall in people in the communication area. Several people have changed jobs. A couple of people have left. So just using this as an example, we had, let's say, 8 positions allowed in the communications department. We only have 1 person there today. So we have some serious shortfall in those areas. So we may post those, and those will be there. But everything that's hired is looked at first and foremost as, can we do without that person or that position for a while, or can it be job sharing? But if you use that communications as an example, going from 8 to 1, it's very unlikely 1 person can pick up the work of 7 others. So some of those may have to be backfilled. Most certainly anything that is critical to the operation of the city, like our water plants, testing, our labs, police, fire, EMS, any of those, we'll try to replace those as fast as we can. But the senior staff, including the city manager, go through an evaluation process with every position. So there are probably some postings out there on places like LinkedIn and others that are trying to backfill some critical shortages we have, because we still have to operate the city, regardless of what that person may be doing. A lot of it, keep in mind, we've got people reassigned where we can, especially in our Parks and Rec department, people who were doing jobs at the swim centers or at city park rec centers. They're working in other parts of the city today, to help out shortfalls there because we didn't do a lot of our summer hire. Remember, we talked a number of times about summer hires. We typically brought in, I'm going to say somewhere between 500 and 600 every year for occasional work classifications that we have that we didn't bring in this year. So we've been repurposing a lot of the people who are here that can't do their normal jobs. They've been doing activities in others, especially in our economic development office, calling each week, talking to businesses. We've done some outreach groups there. This Wednesday, I believe it is, trying to remember, I think it's the Wednesday, we have the volunteers drive-through as an example. So normally we have a breakfast or we have a dinner for all of our volunteers for the city. Well, we can't do that this year. So we're having a volunteer appreciation drive-through at City Park this week, where I'm not sure what all they're doing as far as handing out the details, but it's just there to recognize our volunteers, and they just kind of drive through the circle where the flagpoles are, and people are out waving at them. I'll be there. I'll have my mask on. I'll do my social distancing just like everybody else will be asked to do. And it's just a way to say thank you again to the volunteers, because a lot of our volunteers are still showing up, doing Meals on Wheels and other things that we are still have critical services where we need that help.
Thank you for emphasizing that, and also for shedding light on the volunteer appreciation. There were two comments that I got kind of side note, not on here, but through my messaging. One was that there was a business at one point that had highlighted that they wouldn't enforce the mask, but since the statewide order, they've changed that signage to say they are enforcing wear your mask. So that's just kind of worthy to know, is if you have seen a business that maybe had not been complying, they're trying to take those steps to be in a better position based on the feedback that they're getting from the health department. And then the second question was more along the lines of exactly Meals on Wheels that you had shared. And we are situated on Adams and Jeffco here in Westminster. The senior hub generally has the Meals on Wheels program that touches Adams County. Who services on the Jeffco side of Westminster, or who do we leverage from that lens? If someone's located on the Jeffco side but needs the support of Meals on Wheels, because they couldn't necessarily leverage from Adams County or Boulders or Lafayette since they only service that specific. So I wonder who would be our peer on that end.
Well, most of the Meals on Wheels, if they're through some of the organizations that the city supports, most of the time, if we support them, we require them to serve everybody in the city, regardless of the county line. So I would anticipate, if you have a specific incident, please email me and I'll try to figure out your particular case. But most of the time, anytime we contribute to nonprofits of any level, we require them to serve anybody in the city, regardless of the county. We don't differentiate which side of the city you live on.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I will forward you that lengthy question that I received so you can have someone take care of that. I see Glenn that's on here with us. Vanessa DeMott is also on here, and a couple other people that have popped on. Good morning to you all. We've tried to capture a lot of the comments into the comment section of this broadcast. If you have comments or questions specific for our mayor to answer, now is the time for you to frantically type those in there. I loved the idea that you shared about the drive-through that you're doing for the volunteer appreciation. I'll probably tag you when I post or send you the link for the drive-by ribbon cutting that we just did last Tuesday in a parking lot, and had people just honk their horn and we cut the ribbon. So it's fun to see the creative ways that we're showing that appreciation and thankfulness to the people that are investing their time in our community or our economy. So those are two great highlights. And I'm loving today because you're not giving me so much negative. So this is awesome.
You get awful tired of being negative all the time.
Right? It's hard to maintain that. So the law enforcement, you mentioned they're starting the training at the Centura site off 80th. And just for people's knowledge, if they hadn't shared or heard us share a lot of this content, a couple months back, we had discussed the older site that we had for the Centura and the possibility of using that specifically for seniors, right?
Correct. And that's still, to the best of my understanding, although I didn't ask that specifically when we were talking about the training that was going to go on down there. But to the best of my knowledge, that is still the plan, that would be primarily for more senior people. Not looking at anything that I've heard from that group about them bringing in people like that are homeless into those areas. And we still have a growing number of homeless camps. We found one just recently on the tour I was doing with CDOT on the Highway 36 there. We found one north of the Walnut Creek Shopping Center. We found a big camp in there that we were not aware of. That's now been visited by our staff, seeing what services we can. But the CDC has recommended very strongly, don't move these camps. You're just causing them to spread it in more areas. Try to get services to those camps. And then up at Metzger Farm that we share with Broomfield and Adams County, there is a large camp up in that area as well. So again, we're trying to get services to those people to see if there's something we can do, either transport them to where they may need medical services or get some services brought to the camp. But also as a way for us to track who's in there and to keep an eye on the cleanliness of the camp. We don't want to see some of the things that we've seen growing up in Denver, is these becoming large health hazards. So it's an idea for us also to help keep an eye on that. But again, we have a couple of people on staff that anytime these camps are located and identified, they're actually doing site visits to those camps to find out who's there, what kind of support they need, and to kind of keep an eye on the health conditions there as well.
And are they being receptive whenever we are sending people out there, or how has that interaction unfolded?
Well, there's going to be some that are receptive. They'll take the information. That doesn't mean that they're going to go get the services, but there are going to be those. We see the same thing with the groups that we see in Denver that don't want anything to do with the government. They don't care where you're at, where you're from. All they want to do is be left alone. Don't come out and tell them what to do or how to do it. So there's going to see some elements of all of that, Julia. Unfortunately, people are people. And some of them are very distrustful of the government, regardless of the level of government, from city to county to state or to federal. And they just want to be left alone. And we try to honor those wishes as much as possible.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And just as a reminder, tonight is City Council. So if people have comments or questions, their deadline is?
Noon. Got 33 minutes.
So 33 minutes to rush and look over the extensive packet that I'm sure you all have this evening. And if you have any questions, please submit them by that deadline of noon. Is there anything else you want to touch on before I give some final words and kind of get this wrapped up?
No, I just reminded that we are still taking public comments through either email, or you can go to the website and you can actually record your 5-minute time. And we play those live on the air. We've had that for several weeks now. So remember, if you want to make comments just like you were standing there in person, you still get your 5-minute time limit. It's recorded and it's played live on the line. So those are still there. Other than that, I continue to ask people, please help us with the COVID issues. We want our businesses back open. To the business owners and those who work in businesses, please help us with the enforcement. Without your support, this is going to go on a lot longer, and it's going to become that much more devastating. I don't know how long we can continue to do what we're doing as business owners, but I want you back in full business. And I will ask you every week, please help us. Please watch the enforcements and stay tuned, and also stay healthy. So thank you, Julianne.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for those words. I had no idea about the public comments, although I have listened to the feedback. So I'm sure I've heard someone in there that's been recorded. That information's been typed into the broadcast. Information about City Council meeting, their agendas and everything is on the City of Westminster website. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in. I saw Dave Carpenter hop on here at the very end. So for those of you that have come at the end, please make sure that you rewind and capture some of the content that we've been able to share with you today. If you watch this later on, give us the hashtag replay so we know that you have picked up some of the information that was available. And then also do your part by sharing out this message. We need it in as many people's hands as possible. You can do that by sending it to business owners, family, or friends, or community members that might need any of the new services that our city continues to bring forward, our county, or as our organization does. So it helps for you to information share as well. We will be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. with the Business Success Series, and we've got plenty this week, from diversity and inclusion for your workplace to the Westminster Public Schools Foundation, where we'll talk about their nonprofit organization. So make sure that you're tuning in with us every day at 11 a.m. We have our orientation on Wednesday, so if you're interested in how to volunteer with us, or use our services, then we hope to see you on Wednesday. Information about that is actually on the previous broadcast from Friday. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you again, Mayor, for spending the morning with me. I always enjoy it.